What's up, everybody? It's Ray right back with you to review the latest pro wrestling news and results and cut of wrestling. Let's get yeah! It is Monday, and you know what that means. It's MEGARANT Monday at Wrestling Rants. And we got an unexpected MEGARANT to do today. I didn't think there was anything big going on over the weekend in the world of wrestling, but I stood corrected because a little more deep diving into the weekend, and it turns out that MLW, a promotion that I have not been able to keep up with, but I need to start keeping up with, is back on live pay-per-view. They did their first live show on Fight Plus on Saturday night. MLW Never Say Never. About a 2.5-hour show that really was a solid pay-per-view from MLW. I've always been a fan of this promotion, but it's been one of those things where I kind of lost a little bit with it. Maybe earlier this year, last year, just couldn't keep up with the product because there's so much out there in the world of wrestling, content-wise. And then they went on the Reels channel with MLW Underground. Unfortunately, I don't get access to that channel, so I haven't really been able to see too much of it. I've seen a few episodes here and there, and they dropped them on streams. But by and large, it fell out of touch with MLW, but with this pay-per-view, I think I am back. Checking them out probably on the weekly from this point on every week, because they're on YouTube for free each and every week with MLW Fusion. So I think I am going to start keeping abreast with everything going on in MLW. So coming off this show, some big news. This event was from the 2300 Arena, the old ECW Arena in Philadelphia. An excellent 6-match card. It almost, I hate to make this comparison, but it almost felt a little bit like an NXT TakeOver in some ways, maybe mixed with an old school ECW show. They certainly got the vibe down at the location. The 2300 Arena in Philadelphia, the former ECW Arena, definitely made for a really cool atmosphere. Probably elevated the show just a little bit more as well on that level. Title changes were plenty on this show. There was a women's title unification match between MLW and WXW out of Germany. They unified their titles. We'll talk about that in a moment. But Delmi Exo did get that one, so she's now a double champion. The tag championships also changed hands in an absolutely wild match with the fans bring the weapons, an old school ECW gimmick from Philadelphia. Why not do it on this show? It made perfect sense. It was a fantastically wild match between the SST and the Calling, which saw the Calling, which is a team of Akira and Ricky Shane Page, along with Delirious, win the tag championships. And then in the main event, this surprised me because the last time I saw MLW, Alex Kane of the Bombardier Fight Club was starting to get some momentum, but he was still pretty much a rugged heel at this point. Was starting to get a little bit over, but was still not there. But on this show and in this main event, boy, oh boy, was he ever. And Alexander Hammerstone, the defending champion, who had been champion for something like 640 some days, finally gives up the World Championship, and we have a new champion in MLW of Alex Kane of the Bombardier Fight Club in a big moment. The fans were a very interesting dynamic here. Like I said, I haven't been keeping up with MLW, so I don't know if Alex Kane officially had gotten turned babyface. I would figure that's the case, so this would have been going into the match face against face. But the crowd certainly were all the way Alex Kane in this match, and all not for Alex Hammerstone at all. In fact, he got reactions that I would say were kind of similar to back in the day when Hulk Hogan
and people of that nature were kind of getting a little bit of heat from the crowd for kind of sticking around too long and being the guy on top too long. John Cena, this reminded me a lot of John Cena from WrestleMania 22, where the crowd in Chicago, I was there at that WrestleMania, just turned on Cena, and Triple H really wasn't a babyface, much less, but the dynamic just went in the way it did. So while turn of events on the show, a lot of cases, there was a surprise benefactor of the Bombay Fight Club winning, of being, of all people, Don King. Crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. There's a new faction that's going to be started soon with Mr. Saint Laurent, with his main crown jewel being Matt Cardona. And this faction is, get this, the World Titan Federation. I think this is going to be like a dig on old WWE gimmicks in this faction. Very interesting timing, because MLW is currently in a deep lawsuit with WWE over monopoly practices, basically, within the industry. Litigation is still ongoing, so very interesting that MLW would be coming up with a ex-WWF kind of gimmicks faction. Boy, takes a little bit of balls, I will say that much. But top to bottom, solid show. Like I said, 6 matches. There definitely was some ECW vibes in this, mixed a little bit with NXT. And then just MLW just has this kind of hybrid environment where you got different kind of type of styles working against each other on stuff. And this was very much just in that same vein. Let's get into a little bit of the numbers before we get into the results. BET Online Sports was all over the show. They must be a new sponsor of MLW. Like I said, I haven't followed the product in a while, but they had their shit all over the production. Nice staging here. I thought the production was pretty solid as far as things go for a live pay-per-view. This is the first live pay-per-view in MLW history in 4 years. They used to be on standard pay-per-view. I remember getting them off DirecTV and stuff, and then basically the pandemic happened, and things happened and went certain ways for MLW, but I think this is a good platform, them being on Fight Plus. As things are looking ahead, they announced on the show their upcoming pay-per-view schedule. You got another pay-per-view in early September. I think that is actually the same day as AEW All Out, September 3rd on a Sunday. That sounds like the same day as All Out in Chicago. Saturday, October 14th, Slaughterhouse will be another pay-per-view that they've announced for the end of the year here. Saturday, November 11th, Fightland. And Thursday, December 7th, One Shot. That is the name of the pay-per-view, One Shot. So the next pay-per-view, like I said, the same day as AEW All Out. That's an audacious spot right there. Sunday, September 3rd for Fury Road. And that is going to be the pay-per-view debut of Matt Cardona, or perhaps the MLW debut as well of Cardona. One other thing about the ECW Arena in Philadelphia, this was the location of the actual first MLW broadcast. So there is a lot of tradition with MLW at the old ECW Arena, now the 2300 Arena. Joe Dombrowski, Matt Stryker doing commentary on this one. I thought they did pretty good. Stryker gets a little bit weird sometimes in commentary, but I thought it was alright this time. He kind of, it's a little bit of a fight back and forth with him and Dombrowski, a little bit on commentary, but I think he was alright. So let's get into the show. Before the show, there was some matches taped. Just want to put that out there for future editions of Fusion. Nothing much of a huge substance. I saw Sam Adonis against Microman was one of the matches. There's some other matches. I think Willie Mack won a 6-way scramble match. And then they taped some stuff after Never Say Never as well. Gene Snitsky match of all things. And I believe Roberto Rodriguez, formerly with Alberto Del Rio, wrestled on this show. And I believe he had a hand behind the scenes as well, laying out the matches and stuff. So, interesting little item of news there as well. National title. Let's start the pay-per-view with the national title match. We had Jacob Fatu in there against Calvin Tankman. This was hard-hitting, wild, Lots of action, lots of physicality. Fatu was selling a knee injury that he very well may have had some legitimacy to. The way he landed a few times on that knee, ouch. But there was some spots outside the ring, some big bumps outside the ring. Very little padding. And 9 minutes, 51 seconds, spot 2 won at the end over Tankman with I would call it like a corkscrew senton splash of sorts onto Kelvin Tankman. 3 3/4 stars. I went with this one. And afterwards, Fatu gave props to Tankman as well. I thought the presentation was great. It's a big man match. Very physical. It's very stiff in some spots. Some high spots for these big men that are impressive. Particularly Fatu can do that for all the way, no doubt. A few little segments before the next match. They showed fans bringing weapons to the arena. We had a cactus plant in that match for the tag titles. We also had a PlayStation that was covered in barbed wire. I mean, just some wild shit. Ava Everett did an interview in the back. She was one of the competitors in the Unification Women's title match that was coming up next. This gimmick, I'm not familiar with this talent, but boy, this gimmick is annoying. She's doing her job great as a heel. Bombardier Fight Club segment in the back where they showed up. They're just basically previewing the main event, more or less on that. And then we got to the women's title unification match, MLW versus WXW. Delmy Exable, who I guess recently beat Taya Valkyrie for the women's championship, won over Ava Everett in 6 minutes, 44 seconds. I went 3 stars on it. Didn't really get into a second gear, but I thought the work here was all right. Delmy driver for the finish. Basically a package pile driver type maneuver. And it was all right. Not super familiar with Delmy Exo. I think she was in a tag team before. So this was all new to me. I just wasn't familiar with much of this talent. We talked about their pay-per-view schedule next, as we talked about on the outset of this rant. Match 3 was certainly very interesting. This was Tracy Williams against Timothy Thatcher, and it was going well. It went official match time of only 8 minutes and 26 seconds because of what appeared to be a legitimate injury to Timothy Thatcher after basically a second rope DDT spot. I don't even know if he climbed the ropes. I believe he did. Yeah, I believe he was like second rope. Tracy Williams kind of jumped off the ropes a little bit. It didn't look bad from the execution of it, but Thatcher went with this. It was a DDT spot from the second rope, and Thatcher must have knocked himself silly or something. Took the bump. Immediately goes for a near fall. The referee doesn't count 3, even though Thatcher is completely out. He does not kick out, really. I think it was very delayed, or the referee may have even assisted him in putting his arm up after clearly it should have been a 3 count. At that point, the referee pretty much calls the match. It's very clear after Tracy Williams trying to pick up Timothy Thatcher. And a lot of dead weight. I don't know what the injury is. It didn't look good. It's probably a neck injury, but he may have just knocked himself out. I think I read something online that they were talking concussion is what happened here, and that would not surprise me. The way he landed on the mat, I think he really knocked himself silly by taking that fall too rough. Anyway, I'd call it that Williams probably defeated Thatcher by referee stoppage, but you could just call this a no contest just the same. It was going well before this happened. I went 3 1/4 stars on it. They were really starting to get some good technical wrestling in with a bit of more physical, bigger spots, leading to something down in the match. But yeah, it stopped to a crawl when Timothy Thatcher clearly could not really do much of anything. He did get revived. He left on his own recognizance, but as I said, I think I read online that early word was there was some concussion going on with Thatcher in this one. A few picks for the MLW Open Draft were announced on this show. The first one was Kevin Blackwood of the West Coast. He's been in a lot of stuff, GCW and plenty of other promotions. Good pick for MLW for sure. Next we had a country whipping match, which was more or less a hardcore match. with also straps. Apparently these guys had a strap match recently on MLW they were talking about, but Mance Warner went over Sam Adonis. Sound like these guys have been feuding for a while. 12 minutes, 37 seconds. I went 3¼ stars on this one. It was what it was. Lots of spots. Second Gear Crew came out, causing ruckus. I believe Microman was out as well, getting into it with Adonis. So they got something going on here with a feud, certainly, and lots of hardcore spots. You know, it was all right, but I think the match preceding this, or coming after this one, was much better. But Warner goes over Adonis, felt kind of like a blow off of the feud. Mr. St. Laurent was on stage next in an interview with this Sam Laterno, I think her name was. Wow, terrible interviewer. I mean, talk about during the headlights. She is the greenest, probably, interviewer I've ever seen in wrestling, and that's speaking a lot, folks. But St. Laurent announced the World Titan Federation. We talked about that earlier with Matt Cardona. Cardona did a little vignette that they showed. And then we got to Fans Bring the Weapons tag titles on the line. Calling the team of Akira, Ricky Shane Page, over the Samoan SWAT team of Juicy Fana and Lance Anoa'i. Damn, wild brawl. This was even more, I think, wilder than the previous match. As many weapons. There was tables, there was doors they were going through. Juicy Fana particularly took a wicked bump, like a meteora from Akira near the finish of the match. Took a bump onto the ringside floor off the table on the ring apron. And then the finish was pretty outrageous. Ricky Shane Page gave him, it would have been Lance Anoa'i, they called a Raven Effect DDT from the top rope to a table. Wicked spot, wild finish, good match, 11 minutes, 18 seconds. I went 3¾ stars on this one. It really delivered. There was a lot of interference as well from on the heel side, Delirious, and then Jacob Fatu got involved heavily on the SST side. So this is an ongoing feud once again between these teams that does continue on in the tapings for Fusion, I did read. After this match, they made that big announcement that Don fucking King of Mike Tyson fame and all these things, he is the bankroller of the Boombaye Fight Club. They actually had a segment, a vignette, where Don King talked about it a little bit, more than likely reading a cue card, but there you go. They got Don King, of all people, in MLW. Then came one of the most outrageous things I've ever fucking seen in this promotion. I have never seen such an atrocious segment in MLW. Some talent named Becca, who I have yet to see in the ring at all. I don't know who this gimmick is. All I've seen is this. She's playing like a K-pop Taylor Swift kind of gimmick, where she had a concert on stage in the entrance with really bad dancing and really bad choreography. This was clearly made to be intentionally bad. I guess think like Maximum Male Models, kind of bad, that kind of stuff. But this was fucking atrocious. Absolutely the worst shit I've seen in wrestling in months. Hands down. At least it was short. But what the fuck, MLW? What are you doing here? Yo! Then, following that fucking mess, we get to the main event, which was played up well with big introductions. It felt like a big match feel in the old ECW Arena between Alex Kane and Alexander Hammerstone for the MLW Championship. Like I said, Hammerstone has been champion, I think, almost 2 years down there. And in this match, 22 minutes and 28 seconds, I gave it 4 stars. Lots of good near falls. Hammerstone got his pendulum slam a couple times on Kane. First time he kicked out, second time rolled out to ringside. There was some good brawling in the match. It's good flow, good pace to this match. I talked about it also earlier, but the crowd in this match was palpable. They were really into Alex Kane. They were sick and tired of Hammerstone. They let it be known. They were doing pretty much everything Hammerstone was doing. Was what it was. Rear naked choke for the finish. Like I said, I went 4 stars. Solid main event. Best match probably of the show. Unquestionably, the crowd was in it more than anything on the show as well. And the promo afterwards by Alex Kane, I thought was a nice touch to end what was a really solid first back into pay-per-view foray for MLW in 4 years. So they definitely delivered in this one. Never Say Never. I will go ahead and give Never Say Never an A-. I thought it was a really good start, and they got me hooked. I'm ready to check out MLW each and every week now from this point on. So you're looking for some talk about MLW maybe in future wrestling rants. Okay, it's a Monday. We are not done, even though Mega Rant Monday concludes with this rant. Still got Versus Collision against SmackDown to come right here at Wrestling Rants, baby!